Hey, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. This is your host, Cliff Bauman, for the Mental Health Warrior. My co-host there, Pacific Tita, who
Hi.
she's such a trooper today. She actually had surgery in her mouth today, so her mouth's still a little numb, but she still came on the show. So,
Yeah.
Lynn, kudos to you.
Thanks.
Truly appreciate that you being a big trooper there. I know that that's like the worst feeling in the world, having half your face numb, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because okay, so like I had the surgery a few hours ago and I thought it would be gone by now. So I
Hmm.
took a little nap. That's why I kind of showed up a little bit late right now. But I woke up and it's still a little bit tingling. So I'm just now getting that sensation back. But if you could see on the camera that this side here is like limp of my lips and
Hmm.
then this side is like a little bit full because I mean it just feels a lot funny.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm talking with a lisp, because half of my tongue works and half of it is numb, so
Well, you sound okay. Even if you did, would let it slide today, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but hey, listen up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's going to be a great show tonight. Lynn came up with a really awesome topic to talk about that I think has really affected a lot of us. But now you can catch the podcast on Reach Across America Radio on Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. It's super easy to find. You just download your favorite app, whether it's the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, or the Odyssey app, and you search for Reach Across America, and you'll be able to find us, and everything will be great. And you can rewatch the show, and super excited. Up in the upper left hand corner, you see the little QR code that is for Reach Across America. You can click on that with your phone and you can donate a wreath that I think they start the wreath laying. I think they had the ceremony December 16th. And so it's super exciting. You can go in there. Now, I am associated with Arlington Cemetery, just so you know. So if you donate there, the wreath will go to Arlington Cemetery. So we're super excited about that. They're about $5. And what a great organizations, and what all they do for our fallen soldiers and our fallen veterans is pretty amazing, and I'm super happy and super honored to be a part of that. Along with that, to the right, you can see the link that takes you to Amplify. That is the link to buy my book that is now out. Just came out September 12th. Thanks for all of the ones who have purchased a book. And I think just about everybody in the book club for VTT has bought a book, and I think I got all those mailed out.
that's
So that's
awesome.
really exciting. So if you're out there and you're part of a book club and you'd like for my book to be part of it, reach out to me on Messenger, and I'll be more than happy to support that. But Lynn, you brought up a good topic for today. But before we jump into that, what's on your mind right now?
I really don't have a lot on my mind, it's pretty jumbled up. But, I did wanna talk about how there's 2 topics I wanna talk about finding your identity, right? And then
Hmm.
also trying to make friends. So I wanted to kinda tell a story about having a sit down with my daughter. So my daughter is actually a super introvert, and it's hard for her to initiate making friends. So she's 10 years old, turning 11 in fifth grade,
Okay.
and she's the sweetest. We all think our kids are the sweetest kids, and she's pretty much the only child since my two older ones are adults.
Right.
Well, she sometimes she comes crying to me saying, I don't have any friends, I don't want to stay after school program that long because I have no friends. And one day she broke down and cried. And
Oh
I was like,
no.
"Well, okay, well, come on, let's figure this out. Let's have a sit down and talk." And I've had to do this with my middle son also. I
Yeah.
said, "Let's have a sit down and talk, and let's practice. Okay, let's look up some stuff on YouTube and see how we can enhance our social skills and our emotional intelligence skills to
Yeah.
be able to make friends."
Yeah.
And then we go through these scenarios like, "Okay, come up to me, and you have to come up to me and say hi. How are you?" And I was thinking about that, how it's difficult for kids. But then I'm also thinking about how when we transition from the military, a lot of us veterans, we find it difficult to find friends or to find people who we connect with outside of the military. Because I've come across so many people who, uh, don't want to make friends or open up to other people who are not military
Yeah.
or who do not have that similar background, right? And so what I was trying to tell my daughter is that you have to find something a common ground. Like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, that's a cute picture. Let's draw together."
Yeah.
Instead of asking, "Do you want to draw?" Like, just say, "Hey, let me sit down and let's draw together." Make friends that way. And I know that it's difficult for kids, but it's especially difficult for adults as well, so how about
Yeah,
you? How do you make friends,
yeah.
Cliff? Do you have
Oh,
any? I'm
hell,
just kidding.
I talk to anybody that'll stand there long enough and listen to me. But what, I will tell you that when I
Mhm,
transitioned out of the military, I kinda went through that where, you do kinda lose your identity, and you do kinda get, a little lost in the fact that, I retired, the wife was, in Rhode Island, so I'm here alone
mhm,
with only Lloyd, my 8-year-old, he was 9 now. Um, and so, I was talking with Rachel, who's a, yeah, personal life coach.
yeah,
And, I started doing yoga, which yoga became my social outlet. Until then, my only interaction really was just with Lloyd or visiting with the neighbors every now and then.
yeah,
And so she really encouraged me to, initiate, not that we have long conversations, but have conversations with, the people at yoga class, a little bit before and after. And then she encouraged me to, maybe go an extra class, do an extra class just so I
mhm,
would have that social interaction that I wasn't getting anymore. Because, you think about it at work, and even at school, you get that social interaction with others. Well, when
mhm,
that's no
yeah.
longer there, how do you feel that gap, or how do you feel the void?
Right, and so you have to just keep doing it over and over again, right? And so I told my daughter, I was like, "Okay, you just have to keep doing this over and over again to be able to get more comfortable with the situation." And I
Mhm.
think for us veterans that becomes like one of those gray territories, a little bit dangerous because that turns into isolation, right?
Yeah.
If you don't put yourself out there and you're not talking to anybody, now you're just stuck in your head. So good thing that you have that influence for somebody to take you to go to yoga. Um, right here on the comments, it says Macedo. Dougie says, "My wife tells me to stop talking." One thing that I
That's what
found
mine
that
says.
really,
Do you literally have to talk to everybody? I'm like, yeah, well,
yeah, one
that's
thing that
hard.
I found out for me is that when it comes to like socialization, like, yeah, I am an introvert. And yes, I don't want to talk to people. A lot of us don't want to deal with people, but like, I have to like psych myself up. Like, I have to prepare myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, all right, Len, we're going to go out here and we're going to go make friends, or we're going to go talk to these people and we're going to talk about their lives. Like, you have to prepare yourself to put yourself out, well, at least for me and a lot of people as well, to put yourself out there because it's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy to do that, especially if you're used to being alone or you're used to not talking to anybody else who you have nothing in common with.
Yeah.
And another thing that I do besides psyching myself up is I just talk to them as if I've known them for 10 years,
Yeah.
20 years. So that's one thing that us veterans do, is that we have that camaraderie. We automatically know that we can relate. So it's easier for us to talk. But then when it comes to other people who are not veterans,
Yeah.
things like that, I treat it the same way. I treat it like I'm talking to an old friend, like from
Mhm.
10 years ago. Like, oh, hey, so today my daughter, blah, blah, like you just talking like that. And some people are just not comfortable or used to that.
Yeah,
So,
and it doesn't always have to be, physically in the presence of somebody else. You
mhm.
can talk more on social media. You can,
Oh, yeah.
get into groups. One thing I started doing, of course, I go to car shows and stuff, but I don't really join car clubs. But I
Mhm.
started hanging out with the guys in the car club. So I got the 16 cruisers I hang out with. I got the Prince William cruisers I hang out with. And just to kind of build my new friendship base, right?
Yeah.
And of course, car guys are car guys. We like to hang out and talk about our cars. Well, every Saturday night here in Woodbridge, they meet at the Manassas at the Lowe's there, and they sit in the parking lot and they park their cars out there, and people stop and look at the cars and stuff. And the car guys are just sitting there visiting. That's something they've been doing for almost 30 years. And so now I started doing that. As if the
Mhm.
weather's nice, I take the Mustang down there and just sit. And we just sit there and visit. And some of them are veterans, some of them aren't. It's a good mix of people. But it's just, and then you got people who stop and they want to look at your car. And of course, they want to talk to you and ask you questions and things. And so that's always important. But I think too, to go back to my original point,
Mhm.
is you can also use social media. You can get on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, and you can find groups on there and have talk. You can join a NAMI group. They're nationwide. They
Mhm.
mostly meet virtual too. I was a member of that, the one in Brown County, Ohio, for several years. And so if you look, there's no reason to be in isolation nowadays. 20
Yeah.
years ago, yeah, but nowadays, You can
It's
find it.
it's so
Join
much easier
VTT.
to find people online too, but, like, I think the real struggle here is finding people in person.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going out in public, like, do I just wanna have that RBF, the resting bitch face? Or do I wanna seem, like, open and inviting where people wanna talk to me?
Mhm.
That's the difference right there. Online, it's easy. Online, you can be anybody.
That's true.
I wanted to ask you, did you, end up joining a car club, or did you pick a certain one that you like, or you just hang
I
out with all
just
of them?
no, I just kinda hang out with the guys. I didn't join a
Mhm,
car club. So
mhm.
here's the thing: you join car clubs, and they want you to go to meets, every Saturday or this, that, or the
Yeah.
other, or they want you to do all this crap, and I just don't have time for it. So I'm just a guy that roll, and I got the coolest car, so they don't mind me rolling in and rolling out. So it's all good.
That's
So
awesome.
I got
I
to put
did,
my glasses on
um
now.
even if you don't have a car, you don't I mean, one of those cars from the car club, you can still show up. Like, I
Yeah,
used to go
yeah,
up to, like,
yeah,
Jeep meetups. I don't have a Jeep,
yeah.
but I
Yeah,
have
it's
friends
like
who do,
a good friend of mine,
right?
Bill, who's actually
Yeah.
the author of my book. We worked on it
Mhm.
together. He's got a Firebird, a '72 Firebird. It's not
Oh,
restored.
cool.
It's just an old car that he likes driving,
Mhm.
and he brings it down there. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how many people, because '72 Firebirds are pretty rare, are very interested in his car. And he just comes out and said he just did it for the first time last Saturday,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
so that was kind of fun. So if somebody out there says they have a '69 Shelby GT 500 matching numbers, that's very cool. You should throw a picture up of it. I'd like to see that. And we don't want to get talking about
Yeah,
cars,
I
but
was gonna say, like, I've also, um, as far as cars go, like, I met up with a friend who does, Toyotas. I think it's the 4Runners, but they do off-roading in
yeah,
California, and so
hmm
they have the off-roading car clubs. I don't have a car. I don't have one of those, but I would ride
yeah,
passenger with a
yeah,
friend. I'm like, "Oh, take me with you. I wanna see what this
hmm
like." So I have a lot of friends on Facebook all over the nation, and if I'm in that area, I pick one who seems like they're doing something interesting, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing? Take me with you. I
yeah,
wanna see what your world is like." And then
yeah.
she, like, nearly killed me. I'm kidding, she didn't. It felt like it, like, we were on the edge of the cliff, like, going up, and it was
Oh
really
yeah, they get
cool,
pretty
though.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool, and there was, like, about 20 different vehicles, like, just going in line, like,
hmm
going trying to get stuck in the middle of the desert and mountains. Like, people do that for fun.
Oh yeah. Well, and then if you break down or something happens, you got
Yeah.
a lot of people that'll pull you
Oh,
out. I
yeah,
know,
yeah.
car club guys. When we leave a car show, if
Mhm,
even if you're not part of the club, if something happens to your car on the side of the road, you'll see 6 cars pull behind him,
mhm.
making sure he's okay, and they can get that car fixed and do whatever. Just it's just the culture of the car club guys. And a
Yeah.
lot of the people in the car show world, a lot of them are veterans. A lot of them are Vietnam veterans.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I found out with my '69 Mustang, and I'm sure the other person with '69 Mustang can say this too, is the '69 Mustang is very popular with the Vietnam veterans. It's pretty amazing the kind of conversations you have. But then you just meet kind of people like I have this gentleman who parks next to me. He has a very nice '69 Mustang Coupe. Also, his is
Mhm.
red, and we always park next to each other in shows, and we only see each other's in shows. And it's pretty amazing that people can look at his car and how he redone his car, and then look at my car and how I did my car, and it's just amazing. But he's never been in the military. He was
Yeah.
a CPA, and I wind up sitting there talking to him and his fiance about gun control. Because they watched my
Yeah.
podcast last week. They started watching my podcast,
Oh, wow, that's
and so
cool.
that became the topic of discussion. But it's pretty amazing. So he actually plays in a band. His name's
Mhm.
Glenn. So I told him he needs to write me music for the podcast, so we can have a theme
Awesome.
song. So
Yeah,
hopefully he'll get that done, and I can play his music on, because that'd be kind of cool to have our own like theme song for our podcast.
that'd be cool too. I was gonna say also, around this time of the year, speaking of cars, have you ever heard of cruising the coast? It's on the Gulf Coast, so it's in
Mhm.
the coast of, like, um, from Long Beach to Biloxi, Mississippi. So in between that area, they bring in all the classic cars and car shows and car meetups and car
Mhm.
clubs. They all come down to Mississippi, that Gulf Coast, and they cruise the coast, and it's like a whole week long thing, and it's usually around Columbus Day weekend, I think.
Yeah.
So it's October, so it's around that time.
So the
Mhm.
and like on Columbus Day weekend, that Monday,
Mhm.
the club that I'm part of, they have a nursing home that they go to. Now it's not a car show where you win trophies or nothing, but we're going to meet up at Lowe's, and then a bunch of us is going to go to this nursing home and park our cars there so the residents can come out and look at the
Oh.
cars and stuff. And so they do things like that, and it's kind of, this is the first year that I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah, they bring the
And
show to them
they bring
versus
the show to
the
them, and then they bring
senior
them
citizens coming
outside,
to
and
them. Yeah.
yeah, so and then you get to have that interaction. So that's a lot of
That's
fun, and
great.
apparently that's something they do quite a bit around here, and I didn't even
Mhm.
know about it. So that's really awesome. And one thing I really love about it, you talk about your daughter,
Yeah.
is the amount of kids. Now, if somebody comes to the car show and they have a child, I will let them sit in my car and take pictures. I do that because I have a 9-year-old.
Aw.
And it's amazing that, first of all, the parents are shocked, because most people in the car club culture, they don't want you
Yeah, they're
touching
like,
the
"Don't
car. They
touch
want,
my car. I don't
and
want
but when these
fingerprints."
kids, I
Mhm.
kid you not, when they sit in this car and they put their hands on the steering wheel, I mean, they are in heaven. I mean, this
Yeah.
is like, they're smiling, and I tell them, put your arm on their, window like you're driving, and put your hand on the steering wheel, like you're flexing or something. And then, because I got toggle switches that turns everything on, and I have him hit the one switch, and then all the fuel pump comes on, all the lights come on, and the gauges and everything, and that just they just all enjoy that, and for them to have that memory, one, it may get them interested in cars, which is kind of cool, but two, that's something they're always going to remember, you
Yeah, that's
know.
so
And
much
the
fun.
parents are like, they really sometimes the parents are a little bit jealous because they want to sit in the car.
No, kids only. Because the parents will probably really tinker with everything else, and then
Mhm.
the kids really, like, they're really listening and good kids, and then the parents are the ones who are like, "Let me see what this does."
Yeah, let me do that. But
Yeah.
and it's interesting because we were at Lowe's at the parking lot, and this lady pulled through once, and then she came back through. Well, she had a daughter that had autism, and
Mhm.
her daughter was probably about 15, 16. It doesn't really talk, but she's very interested in cars,
Nonverbal. Mhm.
right? So they stopped, and she was looking at my car, and then I told them, I said, "Hey, she can sit in the car if you want." And then so we got her to sit in the car, and man, you just that her whole world changed. But
You can see it
she,
light up and
yeah, I mean,
totally
but she
different.
literally
Mhm.
knows everything about classic cars, and
Mhm.
she'll tell you what it was supposed to have on it, what it came from the factory with, and all this. Well, the other guys that were there who normally don't let people sit in their car was letting her sit in their car.
Wow.
And so,
That's so
I
cool.
mean, she was there for about an hour and a half, but then she started talking,
Mhm.
and that's pretty big for somebody
That's
who
a
has
huge
autism
deal.
who doesn't normally talk. After a while, she
Yeah.
got comfortable, so then she started asking questions,
Mhm.
and her mom just couldn't believe it, and she was just so thankful that, that we allowed, her daughter to have that, that moment, or that, she, and it's funny because she liked my car, but another gentleman has, there's a Mustang package that came out they call Twister, and they're very rare. They didn't make a whole lot of them, and he's got a bunch of them. But he had like a newer version, one like a '90s version of it, and she really liked that car. And so she
Wow.
sat in that car for a long time, and I had a whole bunch of questions to him about it. And so that just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
When you just do that, and especially with somebody who has disabilities,
Yeah.
just to have that moment, or just to be able to touch something, or feel something, or enjoy it in a safe space, it really means a lot to them.
Oh, yeah. That's kinda like, when senior citizens, they get to, the ones that are in memory care or nursing homes, when they get to remember doing things that they like, it really lights them up. It's kinda the same thing.
I
That's
remember,
it. Yeah.
some people don't know about me, this about me. So I used to work 3 jobs when I was in college. I worked at a gym, I was in the National Guard, and then I worked nights at a nursing home. So, and then I
Mhm.
went to school on top of that. So I slept maybe 4 hours a day. But at the nursing home, I worked nights. So I worked the late shift, 11 a.m. to, or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And there's this gentleman that I don't remember his name, but I used to go down there because when we were slow, the residents were sleeping. That's why I worked at night. So it wasn't,
Mhm.
too much of a hassle. But he used to be the president of the old bank in town, and this guy was in his 90s. And we used to sit there and he used to talk about, all the stories of being a banker, and the old bank, of course, isn't there anymore. The building's there, but the bank's not there. And it was just really interesting to just sit there and listen to his stories,
Yeah.
and how all that came about, and the history of the town I lived in, the small town of Aurora, and it's just pretty amazing when you just take a second and just listen to people when they have something to say. Everybody's got a story, excuse me, and everybody's got something going on or something interesting in their life that they may not think it's interesting, but somebody else will probably find it's interesting.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and circling back to my daughter, that's what I was trying to tell her, that everybody's got something interesting to, share.
yeah,
Everyone's got a story, so if you can find something that to relate to, then that'd be great, like, it's kinda scary and everything, but, so about finding your voice, right? So that kind of segues into the finding the voice, thing. So I wanted to talk about how when we get out of the military, how we get caught up in our everyday lives, and then you think that now your life is insignificant and you feel like you don't have a purpose,
hmm,
right? And I was talking about this with the friend, and she's a stay-at-home mom now, but she was a marine, a great marine, and
yeah,
she led troops and all of that, um, and she's actually a great leader in the community. Well, I was like, and I'm telling her, "Hey girl, you're such a good leader in the community. People actually look to you and they want to talk to you about their experiences and they trust you." And I said, "You're pretty much a pillar in our community." And she goes, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I used to be something I'm not anymore." And
mm,
I'm like, "How do you go from there, like how did she get to that conclusion?" And
yeah,
I'm trying to talk to her about it, and it's just like, because she's out of the military now and she doesn't have an outside career, I would
mhm,
say, she feels that she's inadequate now. And
yeah,
I think that this also happens not just for military people, but for women in general, you know? Um, so I was just trying to sit there and tell her, you have a voice.
yeah,
You have a voice, you have a purpose, and we are out here, trying to save lives. Like what me and her are doing together, we're trying to improve veterans' mental health as well.
yeah.
We're out there with irreverent warriors, bringing veterans together and preventing veteran suicide. And she's like, "Well, I'm not that person. I will never be that leader again because I'm just a mom." So, what do you say about that, Cliff?
Well, I think, you know, I think, and I don't know her and I don't know her situation, but
Yeah.
when you are in the military, and of course I was an officer and I was in charge of people
Mhm.
and stuff, and you transition out of that, and I don't know how long she's been out of the military, but for me, of course, with the podcast, speaking events, blah 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 blah. I didn't mind that so much. I didn't mind being
Yeah,
home with my boys, and I didn't think I didn't lose my voice. It just changed, right?
there you go.
And
That's a good
and
way to put it.
I think really for some people, if she's upset or depressed, I mean, she might be happy just being a stay-home mom. I don't know, but I think over time, you got to find something to replace that with and do it. Of course, I was
Mhm.
lucky to have the podcast and other things, but for her and for what you guys do, I think it just slowly keep getting her, to go to those, when the Revenant Warriors meet and they have those things and just kind of ease her into it. And then as her children grow, see that becomes a problem because as your children get older and they don't want you around anymore, they're off living their own life or doing their own
Right.
thing. Then again, you gotta start all over again, right? And so, you
Mhm.
know, building that up prior to that. I mean, it's like for me, um, I've always had my boys around me, and now I don't have anybody around me. I'm all alone here in
Right.
the house.
Well, I
So
feel like just because you are a parent now or you're not in the military, that doesn't take away from your leadership. That doesn't take away that you are, somebody who people can turn to. That doesn't mean
mhm,
that you're less than.
right,
You're still enough is
yeah,
what I'm trying to say. And if you have that gift of being able to talk to people, or if you have that voice, then you should find that confidence or try to get that confidence and own it,
yeah,
and some people don't own it. Some people just don't have that confidence to say, yeah, I'm
yeah.
that person, I'm the boss, I'm the big head or whatever it is,
Well, I mean,
the head honcho.
some people when they put the uniform on, they flip a
Hmm.
switch, right?
Right,
And when
right,
they no
they
longer
feel
put that
more
uniform
important.
on, they don't have the cape, the Superman cape, or the Spider-Man hood, or
Hmm.
whatever you want to say. But hey, Kenneth, I'm going to say thanks for sharing your story. Glad you didn't
Yes,
succeed. I
thanks,
know what
Kenneth.
it's like to go down that path. and you found out just as well as I did that once you get past that, that life can be beautiful and can be wonderful. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. But also too, if that was your whole identity, right? Because I was at an event and I talked to this young guy. He got medically out of the military, and he was struggling. He had a hard time, and
Mhm.
he was like, how do I do this, because he didn't know what he wanted to do, and he's like, I got to stop drinking and playing video games. I got to stop this, what I'm doing. It's not healthy. I got to do something different. And I was just sitting there talking to him. I said, so what did you do in the military? And he's like, oh, I was an MP and I did this. I'm like, okay, have you ever thought about being a police officer? Yeah, well, I didn't want to do this. And I said, have you thought about being a security guard at a DOD base? They're always hiring. He's like, yeah, you know
Mhm.
what? I never thought about that. And so I saw him, I don't know, a couple of months later, and he was getting hired on to go work security as either at Quantico
Wow.
or Fort Belvoir. And it's just, he was so wrapped up in becoming a police officer, and that really wasn't going to work out. He never
Mhm.
thought about the other avenue. And,
Yeah.
so I was just happy to just, have that conversation and just give him a little bit of advice to think differently, right? My mental health minute today, I was talking about, linear thinking. The earth is round, and nature works in a circle, but yet we're always in a square, right? We're in a square bed. We live in a square house. We go to a square office. We go to a
Our
square
circle pizza comes
cubicle.
in a square box.
That's right. And so what I said is, if you're feeling a little bit rigid today, go outside and walk around in a circle. Change your
Mhm.
environment. Do that a little bit different, because sometimes it does get you in that one way thinking, and that one way
Yep.
thinking can lead you down a path that we all know that sometimes cannot be a very good path.
Well, that's that tunnel vision, right?
Yeah.
And so some people get so stuck on like, this is what I'm going to do. This is it.
Hmm.
This is my identity. And then when it fails, and then they're like, well, what the heck? Because they didn't plan for a contingency. They didn't
Hmm.
plan for a plan B, C, D, you know? So I think it's huge once you are in the military and out of the military that you should be able to find a different identity and
Yeah.
find something that you're passionate about or something else that you like, and that's good that you're able to redirect that dude
Yeah.
to security.
Well, I mean,
So,
it's just,
yeah.
just made him, if that's what you enjoy doing, there's a ton of different ways to do stuff.
Mhm.
You
Exactly.
know,
There's more than one way to skin a cat,
that's right.
right?
Or skin a rabbit or skin a squirrel or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
But
Brian, I have no idea what the Norwegian tern is, but I'll Google it later and figure out what it is. I don't know what he's talking about.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't either. But you can let us know out there. But one thing too is, it's just like with doing speaking events. How did you come up with Pacific Tita and then get involved with Veterans Trash Talk?
Okay, so
Because
that
I
is
got,
definitely a whole show in itself, but, like, real
give us
quickly,
a snippet of it.
Pacific Tita. So I'm Pacific Islander, and then
Hmm.
Tita, it just means like aunt or like someone of older person, like kind of like an elder who's wiser, or not even necessarily wiser, but it's just a term of endearment and respect. So
Okay.
Pacific is the ocean, and then
Yeah.
Tita. So
Okay.
Pacific Tita. So Tita is like an
Is that Degalo or
auntie and
Degalo?
uncles. What's that?
Is that Degalo?
Tagalog?
Yeah.
Tagalog. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
it's Filipino, it's Hawaiian, um, but yeah, that's what long story short, that's what it is, and then, like, I put, like, a warrior, um, princess or whatever islander on as my photo. 'Cause, was it Nick is on here, he said,
Yeah.
"Yo," because Nick was like,
Yeah.
you need to find a character and make yourself a page, and,
Hmm.
um, and then go with that, everybody gets their all identity
Yeah.
page."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Okay, I guess." So, like, on the fly, that's what I came up with, and I have all the, Islander and Navy tattoos, so it kinda, like,
Yeah.
flows with that. And then how I got involved with Veteran Trash Talk during the pandemic. Right? We were
Yeah.
isolated and we had no friends. We couldn't go outside. We couldn't do anything. And so I found Veteran Trash Talk online.
Oh,
And
okay.
one
Yeah.
night I had an episode and I was like, and I wanted to vent, and I wanted an outlet and people to hear me and relate and stuff, because I had an episode of PTSD,
Sure.
and it was bad. And I reached out to Joe and I was like, "Hey, my post was up at 2 a.m. Central Time. Nobody like approved it till like 10 in the
Yeah.
morning." I said, "You guys need to do something about that. If you're really trying to prevent veteran suicide and you're just leaving people here and nothing's getting approved," I said, you know, and he goes, "Yeah, you're right. What do you think we should do?" I said, "Well, number one, you should probably hire more moderators
Yeah.
from different time zones."
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's like,
So that's how
"All
the
right."
Equal Mafia
He
was
goes, "All right,
developed.
great. Thanks for volunteering, Len." And then from there, the rest is history. But there's
Mm.
a lot more to that story. We can get into it another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I pretty much found my people with Veteran Trash Talk. I love their podcast. Nick and Joe and Dave, they're
Buddy.
so welcoming. Love them so much. And at the time, some other some other person was with VTT. He's not
Yeah.
no longer with VTT, but he was a great person as well. But it just seemed like family. We had like these test groups
Yeah.
where we would test out like shirts or apparel and focus groups, I would say.
Yeah.
So focus groups
Yeah.
on apparel. And then we were the first and I was very outspoken
Yeah.
with stuff. And you know how I am. And so they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Well, great. Thanks for volunteering for the podcast." No, that's so there was another we had another podcast host, and she's an amazing person, but she had like a faux pas of something that happened with an MST survivor, and I was like, "Oh, shame on you. You better effing fix that. Like
Yeah.
that's messed up." And they're like, "Okay, well, how can we fix it?" So they revamped the show, and here I am now for podcast. They were podcasting. It was an all women's veteran podcast,
Yeah.
our whole panel. So you remember that.
Yeah.
So that's that. That's a quick story
Yeah.
of how I got in with VTT. But they're
Yeah.
just great, wonderful people. I consider them family. They're all my brothers and sisters. I love them to death.
Yeah. So if you don't know what VT is, if you're listening, it's a Veterans Trash Talk. Go out, find our Facebook page. Be sure to like and subscribe to all of our YouTube pages or all of our social media out there. It really helps us to continue the mission that we're doing, and really giving a voice to veterans and really helping veterans.
Yeah.
And it is very important.
And
I
matter
know,
of fact, that's how I met you.
yeah.
Is because I was hosting a podcast and I was going through my PhD classes, and one of my professors was like, "Well, I know this guy, Cliff. He could probably be a great person on your podcast."
Well, and you know who that's Bill who wrote the book.
Yeah. Oh, really? That's him?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Dr.
great.
K. That's what we
Mhm.
called him.
That's right, Dr. K. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while. I forget things a lot. So
Yeah. Because I didn't even know he was teaching online, but I guess you took one of his classes and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm a PhD dropout now, so it's just a lot of work. It's a
Yes. Yeah,
lot
I
of
have,
work.
my older brother and younger sister
Mhm.
both have their PhDs in education, and
Yeah.
that's good. I got my bachelor's degree, and I was good because I'm not really a
Well,
school guy. School's not my thing.
yeah,
I
you
did
don't
it to say I had
need
it, and
it.
that's about it.
Mhm.
But hey, listen up. If you guys are up in the Boston area, I'm going to be up at Veterans Coffee Hall this Friday. They're doing a book signing there, so I'm super excited about that. I'll post it on my social media tomorrow, or actually tonight because I'm leaving out early in the morning. But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show tonight, and we're not going to quite wrap up, but we're going to kind of get close to it. But listen, if you have a major transition in your life, whether it's your military related, not military related, just know that it may take time to find your voice. It may take time to find those new friends or find your new tribe or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but if you never break out of the little circle you're in to go look for that, you're never going to find it, and so, quit living in a square, get out of the square and go into a circle and find your new circle of friends. And it's just like, when my son was doing Taekwondo here, I would drop him off at Taekwondo, then I would go sit in my truck. And I had to stop doing that. I would go inside and just start visiting with the parents who are also there with their kids. And that was just something that I had to change,
Yep.
just to get back into that interaction. And so that was just, just it can just be something that small. I mean, practice talking to people at line at the grocery store. I don't know.
Yeah, I had to do that too. Matter of fact, now that you bring that up, my daughter is in soccer, and I used to not talk to any of the soccer parents at
Yeah.
all. And this is like their 3rd year in Jacksonville, but I started talking to them this year, so
Yeah.
it's gotten a little bit better.
Uh-huh. But it's just like I said, it's easy to get into that rhythm, right? You
Yeah,
get into that
yeah.
battle rhythm, and you kind of get, like you said, tunnel vision, and you just got to kind of step out left or right from that every now and then, and we look at things. But hey, last month was Suicide Awareness Month. It's Mental Health Awareness Month now. This month, October, if I remember correctly. But we all are our keepers. Sometimes in the fall, the season changes. It becomes a struggle for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Sometimes just change in itself. Got less daylight now. The days are getting shorter. But hey, let's just keep looking out for each other. We are our brothers and sisters keeper out there, and it's so very important. So, Lynn, I'll let you say something real quick, and then I'll close this out.
All right. It is a busy month this month for October, the start of race season, by
Hmm.
the way. If you're a runner, which I'm not a runner anymore, but
Yeah.
I will be out on the Armed Forces 5K, 10K with a booth here in Jacksonville. So if you're out there, come say hi. We're going to be promoting Irreverent Warriors out there. And then also upcoming hike in Fort Walton Beach,
Nice.
October 21st. So that's it.
So a friend of mine, Vincent, who owns Life Is My
Hmm.
Movie, is actually filming a show down in Miami
Oh,
in
fun.
the first part of November,
Hmm.
and he wants me to come down there and go run with the Raven. I guess the Raven
That's
is a
right.
guy that's been running on the
Yeah.
beach, so I may go do that. So I'll let you know if I'm in Florida. When I come in, if I come in. So I haven't
Yay.
decided yet. So I have to talk with Vincent again about that. But hey,
Mhm.
listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. I truly appreciate all of the support that I've gotten over the years, and I know Lynn also appreciates that too. Veterans Trash Talk, we all appreciate it. If you are a veteran out there and you're looking for a home, please join us. But if you are a member of Veterans Trash Talk, every one of you, I know you haven't done it. You should go out and like all of our pages. You should go out to the YouTube. It takes just a second just to log in and like and subscribe to all of our stuff, because this is what allows us to keep going on. And if you look up there in that corner right there, I'm pointing towards it. Go ahead and scan your phone over that. It's $5. Go ahead and donate a wreath for Wreaths Across America Radio. I mean, Wreaths Across America, just to ensure that all of those fallen soldiers and veterans, have that wreath on their tombstone for Christmas time. So it's so very important. On this side of the screen, you can scan
Yes.
that code and get my book, The Mental Health
Oh,
Warrior.
no, yeah.
It's a story of my suicide and survivor. It also covers 9/11, and then you'll learn something about my life that I don't normally talk about. But hey, and also, if you want to re-listen to this, or if you missed the show, you can always catch all the great programming on Reads Across America Radio. They replay my podcast on Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Super easy to find, like I said early on. And you just download the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, or the TuneIn app. You type in Reads Across America comes up, and you click follow, and you're good to go.
Oh.
With that, have a great have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.
Mhm.
Take care.